I'm on a mission to help 1 million people increase their energy so they can have more fun and success in their lives, because who wants to live a life without reaching your potential, right? And way too often our energy is drained by these deficiencies and toxicities that we're going to be talking about today that don't allow us to be our best selves. So step one of the 4-step energy MD method is to assess. So fortunately, of these 33 different causes, 75% of those can be determined by symptoms, 25% need the labs, and you need to figure out which of those 20 plus causes you have. Whether you have fatigue or not, this is a good practice for everybody to go through, because these same causes of fatigue are also the causes of diseases of longevity. So heart attack, heart disease, stroke, Alzheimer's, cancer, autoimmunity, all of those things are dealing with these toxicities as causes, right? My lens is just through looking at fatigue, but removing these toxins out of your body is going to be beneficial no matter where you are from a preventive standpoint. So when we look at the deficiencies, the ones that we really need labs for are blood tests for things like thyroid, but I do like to see labs for thyroid, iron, ferritin, and total iron binding capacity are the big ones, and B12 and folate and vitamin D. Then in terms of the toxicities, we're looking at urine heavy metals with a DMSA provocation, and then the stool test with GI map or the gut zoomer 3.0 with vibrant.
So now we've done step one, we've assessed. What comes next?
So what comes next may surprise you. It's replacing the deficiencies. So we talked about this process being, the toxins are most important. They cause the deficiencies, but you have to become more robust in order to be able to get rid of the toxins. We have to prepare the body for it. And it's stressful removing the toxins out of the body. So you got to make sure the adrenals are well supported and the thyroid is well supported, because everything works better when thyroid is optimized. What's the best anti-cholesterol medication? It's thyroid. What lowers blood pressure? It's thyroid. What decreases inflammation? It's thyroid, right? So we optimize the thyroid, and then we optimize the mitochondria, which is so important in the absorption of hormones into the cells, increases your energy. And we call those the big three: the adrenals, the thyroid, and the mitochondria, because they make really big shifts for folks and they set them up for success. And then the rest of it is the lifestyle habits, which most of the people who come to see me, they've already done a lot of lifestyle habits. So oftentimes they just need some tweaks and some support on getting enough water. They're eating enough good food or the right foods. They're getting enough sleep, and they're getting enough movement. Now, with the movement and with a lot of this stuff, you might hear me in some of my videos talk about the Goldilocks dose. So there's an ideal dose. Like for people who are fatigued, we don't want you exercising a whole bunch. We want you to get some movement in order to move the lymph. And, movement is the panacea for everything. You can find research to support pretty much any condition that is supported by movement, right? So we want movement, but if you move too much, you're going to feel worse. So you got to find that Goldilocks dose. Same thing goes for the water, same thing goes for the food, and then of course, same thing goes for the sleep. So that's all the deficiencies. And then the next step is to open up the drainage pathways. So in order to be able to remove the toxins in step 4, we've got to make sure they've got a place to go. So whether it's a slide coming out of the body or a tube, however you want to think about it, these tubes are clogged. The more toxins you have, the more clogged they are, right? And when you're fatigued, you've got lots of clogs. And so we got to open that up. And we got to open that up with the liver, the intestines, the kidneys, the lymph, which is the garbage system of the body, the neurolymph, which is in the brain, the bile, which is right next to the liver, and the gallbladder. So all of those areas need to be opened up so that when you go to grab the heavy metal chemical, mold, or infection, and you pull it into one of those pathways, it actually has a place to go to get out of the body.
Your liver is a perfect system. Its job is to detoxify, so there's nothing you need to do to help it along further. And I'm like, okay, first of all, please. Because again, it's back to the bucket analogy. The liver is doing its dang best every day, but as you have mentioned, the thousands of chemicals just as a starting point that is having to work through, let alone everything else. And each of these phases of detoxification require a lot of vitamins and nutrients that you have to get from foods or supplements. But if in your going through your steps, if you have a deficiency, then your liver is going to try its best. But if it's missing or deplete in certain nutrients to get from step 1 to step 2 or step 2 to step 3, 3, then it's just not going to work. So while it's trying to be a perfect system, I understand why some people push back on that thought process. The liver is this super cool organ that requires a lot to make it process. So yes, it can get clogged or sluggish. And yes, it can have a lot of issues because of the sheer amount of vitamins and nutrients needed to keep it going. And it drives me nuts when I see that on social media of people who push back and go, you don't need to do anything about your liver. I'm like, please.
It's like a filter. If you wait too long on changing a filter in your car or whatever, when you look at it, it looks like crud, right? It's nasty and full of stuff. And that's essentially what the kidney and the liver are. They're filters, right? So it's really important to get them the support that they need. So that's step 3. And then step 4 is removing the toxins, making sure that you are addressing heavy metals, chemicals, and molds as you deal with the infections. While at the same time, you're also dealing with the mindset. I forgot to talk about that in deficiencies. And energy mindset is a big part of our program, where we have 4 steps that we recommend that people do every single day as part of their daily practice. And then there's the emotional work with our trauma coaches that we have on staff to work on the negative emotional patterns, in addition to all the other physical stuff that we've talked about today.
We hope you liked today's podcast clip. And if you want to learn more, check out the Root Cause Medicine podcast on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts.